In Hawaii, there's so much to do. There's hula, there's surfing, and real estate too. We just two local guys with so much to say. So listen to the Real Estate Braddahs today.
What's up, folks? This is the August edition of the monthly market update. I'm going to turn things over to Dean with his side of the report, and maybe we might start talking about buying ex murder houses up in Hawaii Lower Ridge. You never know where this goes. You guys control where we head with this. If you guys have any questions or comments, please type it into the section below and um, keep us entertained as we kind of go through this. But yeah, take it away, Dean.
Yeah, thanks. Episode 54, Harlene, still going strong. So, like you said, hopefully we can go truly live in the very near future. So, stay tuned for that. As you know, I'm Dean Ueda, I'm a real estate investor and realtor in Honolulu, Hawaii. You can find me realestateofhawaii.com or on YouTube, YouTube/ Real Estate of Hawaii. So, jumping into information. So, I just came back from a trip and I went to California, and I really got sticker shock after the fact. We did, the Disney, we did the Universal, we did Knott's Berry Farm, we visited my wife's old school, and I came back from the trip, and it was only 10 days, and I asked her, she did all the planning, the booking of everything. So I asked her, oh, what was the price tag on everything, and she was like, oh, about $10,000, and I was just like in shock. And we haven't traveled for 3 years pre-COVID, so I mean that's fine. But it just was. I didn't think it would be close to. I was thinking, maybe five, maybe 7 grand. But I mean, keeping in mind we did pay for the lightning lanes or the fast passes at all these um, amusement parks, so that we don't, instead of waiting an hour and a half, we could get in 5-10 minutes. So time is money, so we definitely paid for it from that standpoint. But it was, for me, really a sign of inflation, if anything. Um, Also, when we came back, I had to buy dinner, and one thing that we picked up, I went to L&L and I bought. A lot of times, the barbecue chicken, I just get a couple pieces, like 3 pieces, and then the when I called it in, the lady's like, "Oh, you sure you don't want to get a regular barbecue chicken plate?" And I was like, "No, no, it's a little cheaper when I just buy the pieces. I get rice at home, no worries." And so she's like, "Oh no, you know what? It's actually the same if you buy the plate." And I was like, "Well, how much are the is a piece of chicken?" And this is the boneless thigh, right, marinated and cooked. And so she's like, "Oh, it's $4." And I was like, $4 for a piece. And it's like, I remember 6 months ago it was 275 per piece, so it came out a lot cheaper. But anyway, that's like a 40 something percent increase in 6 months. And so I don't know, those two things popped into mind in terms of this inflation is real. We're talking, I think, what did they say, 9%, right, is the hyperinflation going on right now. But just some fun facts that made me kind of freak out in the last few weeks. I don't know about you, Lane, if you're getting any sticker shock on anything.
Well, I mean, the government doesn't track food or energy costs, so food can be skyrocketing in terms of inflation. They just don't measure it at 9.1%.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, jumping into the meat and potatoes of my side of the presentation, median prices for Oahu for the month of July. We saw not much change in terms of single family homes month over month, but we see a 12% increase from prior year at 1.11 million. I think last month, June, it was similar, 1.110, I believe exactly. And on the condo townhouses, it's up 6% from prior year, but it's down. I believe last month for June we were at 535,000 for the median condo townhouse price, which at that time broke a new all time record. So we're down from prior month, but up from prior year. Taking a look at days on market, we haven't seen much change. Still, what we would consider a seller's market when you have only 12 days on market for both single family and condos. Um, on the mainland, I know they're talking about a lot of doom and gloom these days. I don't think we've quite seen it yet here in terms of our lagging statistics in Hawaii. Um, Closed sales, we see 308 for a single family, which is down 23% from same time last year, and 509 for condos, which is a 25% decrease from same time prior year. Um, I like to look at new listings because, when we're talking about prices going down or up, I mean, it's two sides of the coin, right? We talk about the supply as well as the demand. So on the supply side, we see how much is coming onto market. So for July, we had 398 new homes come on for single family, which is a decrease of 19%, and 632 for condos, which is a 9% reduction from same time prior year. Um, which takes us to the month supply of inventory, right? So we have still, less than 2 months of supply of inventory for both single family and condos. So from that standpoint, by definition, we're still in a strong seller's market. Um, Unlike the mainland, homes for sale for July, we have 577, and that's a 13% increase from last year, and we have 1,046, which is a for condos and townhouses, which is a 8% decrease from last year. But I guess the point of this slide is we still have relatively low inventories in terms of what's out there for our buyers to purchase. Um, that you compare it to other parts of the country where they're already talking big doom and gloom. Las Vegas, this is from a few days ago, I think. It says Las Vegas home prices falling after a heated run. So they're talking about a big uh, downturn already. We're seeing that they have like over a 300% increase in terms of available inventory. They have 5,750 houses on the market at the end of June versus 1,700 in February. So it's tripling in terms of what's available compared to only 5 months ago. So we also talk about nationally. They're saying um, we're having 60,000 home purchases transactions that fell through, and then that's the highest cancellation rate since mid 2020. So stories that we're hearing on the mainland, they're ahead of what we're seeing here, I guess you could say.
But I mean, we'll talk about the reason. It's very simple. I mean, interest rates shot up about a month ago, and it just did again. So people can't afford as much because the affordability is determined by how big of a loan that they can get. So
Yeah.
when the interest rates go up, their affordability, their purchasing power goes down, and that is directly creates the situation where people drop their contract because their lending falls through. So when you go into a contract, that lending isn't there for you because you can't borrow as much because
Yeah.
the rates. So it's not
Yeah.
like people are like, things are going to go way down. I don't believe that, but it's just a quick cause and effect, which is good.
Yeah, good point, because we mentioned it too, is when rates were it's like half, like under 3% a year ago. It's like your people are trying to buy at the top of what they can afford, especially in Hawaii, because if they're maxing out their leverage to get a fixer upper and not even their dream home. You know what I mean? So, well, we had
Yeah.
a comment. You posted some. I missed down. Sorry, from
Oh, it's just a
Cody.
comment about like crypto. Like those cryptos guys got their ass kicked too. So, yeah, invest in real stuff like real estate. What I
Oh,
keep saying.
was Cody mentioning we should buy crypto or the
I don't
Bitcoin?
know. I don't know. We don't give out any
Don't even go there.
financial advice or investment advice. Apparently that's what financial planners are supposed to do. But
And
why?
we mentioned in previous podcast too, right? In terms of, I mean, even the interest rates where they're at, we're still at relatively low rates compared to what it was in the 70s and 80s. And I put this slide in just because
Yeah, but
I know
like I
maybe
think that's for like
month ago
unsophisticated
or when.
investors. They like freak out when it goes from 3% to 5, 6%. And it's like, well, if you can still make more than that, 10, 12%, then really the decision hasn't changed. Right. But like
In terms
most
of, right.
people get sticker shock over taking money out of their properties and now they have to pay 2 more percent. That's what old school mentality of money. They worry about the debt service costs.
Versus banks who are doing interest rate arbitrage, and it has no bearing to your point, right? It's takes out the emotion
Yeah.
because you're playing the differences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, rich get richer, right? And the uneducated get poorer. And I guess we'll see you in Club 33 in Disneyland one day, Dean. Keep investing the right way.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's the point of this slide was to show. I think last month the interest rates were like 5.7, but we actually had a dip earlier this month, or earlier in July, where it went down even a little bit. So now we're at the low fives. So that's gives people breathing room. But again, the doom and gloom or the fear that the trend is going to be upward is what it's probably getting the tire kickers um, out of the way in terms of buyers and transactions in Hawaii. And then the thing too is I have, sometimes we have buyers who are like, oh, it costs to buy a house is so expensive, so I'm just gonna go and rent. But the truth of the matter is that even rents are skyrocketing, also. So this, I think, this is from yesterday from Hawaii News Now, said that Honolulu is actually number three or the third most expensive place to rent in the entire country, below Napa and San Jose. Yeah, so Bay Area. So I mean, the other alternative is to rent, and then keeping in mind, um, trying to get a rental is challenging too because of the lack of inventory in Hawaii too. And I think, Lane, one thing we talk about is the benefit of if you're not owning is you're also not having to put that 20% down, or the down payment that you could, we always call lazy equity, right? So there's
That's
the two
correct.
sides to that coin. So anyway, segue into our. You guys know I like to talk about the scam of the month. So this month we have a fun cyber criminal QuickBooks scam. And so what these criminals are doing is they send you a phishing email, and it looks like it's an invoice from a legitimate organization like Norton or Microsoft, and the email has a number for you to call, and it directs you to call if the invoice seems kind of shady. And so if you call the number, you'll be asked to confirm your credit card information and cancel the fake transactions, what they're claiming. And fortunately, of course, if you give it to them, then all the criminals are going to be using it to make purchases. So as always, never call a number provided by a suspicious email, and visit the company's official site, which is usually very easy to figure out, especially if it's a large business. If you ask to verify payment on the phone, ask the caller um, to see what they have on file, yeah, to verify. It's like you're doing a two-factor authentication back towards them, yeah, and to see, making sure that they're legitimate. And if not, then something's wrong. Yeah, cyber criminals can use fake invoices to try to freak you out, but don't fall for it. Yeah. Oh, it always seems very similar, but slightly they're tweaking it, yeah, every time. So now we segue into this conversation, Lane, and I
I've
think
been super following this. I want to say excited because then I'll offend people, but it's a heinous crime. But there's not many gated communities in Hawaii. It's a very hot commodity. These houses. Yeah, there was a apparently a domestic violence case up in Hawaii Lower Ridge, and then there's a murder in there. And I don't know. Have you ever had any murders in any of your rental properties or anything
knock
like
on
that?
wood.
Knock
I'm
on wood.
knocking on my head now. Not so far.
Yeah.
We've
But
had natural death, not, that kind of stuff, but not,
If
no.
have you ever like had a buyer like look at one of these like properties where the agent has does the agent have to disclose it? How does it work?
So the disclosure statement is purely to be completed by the seller as always, but for the situation, like I've had listings where we had people pass away naturally, not a murder, in which case they disclosed, and I've had buyers come in and actually just leave because they're like, oh, someone passed away. Nah, no, thank you. You know, I think the few cases that we had was Asian family, and they didn't want to live in a house that had someone had passed away, regardless of what how they passed. Murder, not I haven't dealt with anything directly or had anyone interested in um, taking a look. Oh, if anybody wants to go, give me a call and we can go take a look. I think the open house is coming up this Sunday, which goes to my next slide. This is, I mean, this is just some peripheral information. This, as Lane had mentioned, the murder happened in the home, and this wasn't very long ago too. But if you look at the pictures, we're at what 2.5 million. The house looks gorgeous. Obviously, the scene of the crime was the bathtub, and they redid that. I didn't put that picture in. um, but yeah, that they did, and you can find the details online, I think, pretty easily. I was reading up on that too, trying to figure out why they did what they did in terms of the, I don't know, Lane, if you remember the coffee grounds.
No, what was that?
To I think it was for the smell. This
Oh,
this was the one that they tried to pour concrete in the tub.
should have let them borrow your ozone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I was scared to talk about this, Lane, because you. But anyway, um, what I also wanted to talk about is I just pulled the active listings in Hoyle Ridge in that neighborhood, and we see it as number one. The top, I'm sorry, the top at 2.495, and obviously it's the lowest price in the neighborhood. And we always talk about that too. Is when you're sometimes the strategy when you're buying a property is owning the cheapest house in the most expensive neighborhood that you can afford. And this is actually an example of that, barring the fact that you'd have to get past the big um, stigma that in theory will go away in time, right? So it could be
Yeah.
an investment play from that standpoint.
If anybody's really interested in it, reach out to Dean. I might want a JV on this project. If anything, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. The price is going to go up. Like they did
Yeah,
like a $500,000, $250,000 price reduction, and the people buying this house aren't local people.
exactly. I don't think
More than
it's gonna.
likely, it's going to be some mainlander who doesn't totally unaware what happened, and they don't care because that stuff happens all the time on the mainland anyway. So
Mm. And again, it's not trying to disrespect anyone in the family or the situation, but just kind of using it more as a case study and clinically point out that you see the price is obviously the lowest and for a reason, yeah. And that kind of discount could potentially mean baked in equity over time, right?
yeah, and Dean and I don't get any cut from. We don't know those listing agents, so we're not even trying to promote their listing. It's just something interesting to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
Too
It's
often,
actually,
people buy things where there's not a little hair on it, and that's when you pay the prime dollar for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And to end it off on something a little more light, I guess you could say, um, I did a video, being that we're in summer. Um, Funny thing is, I've in my house that we've lived in for the last 6 years, I've not even installed AC yet. But um, in thinking of my clients and my family and friends, um, did some research in terms of how to save money in terms of cooling costs during the summer, right? So we all know electricity prices are going up too, especially based on fuel costs going up. So a few quick low hanging fruit or tips to try to save money on your AC bills is, don't forget annual maintenance. I've always owned ACs in my prior homes, and I don't think I've ever paid for a maintenance. On my rentals, I think for the HVAC in the mainland when it was offered, but my primary residence, I don't think I've ever paid to have the filters, coils, fins cleaned by a company, or even done personally by myself. So doing those kind of annual maintenance, which costs less than $200, will make your AC run more efficiently and obviously save money because it runs more efficiently. Yeah. Another tip is raise your thermostat, especially when you're now at home. You can make it maybe 7 degrees higher than you would than when you come home. Now with the smart homes and the timers, you can always have it turn on just before you get home. Another thing is if for each degree that you raise your thermostat, that's a can equal a 1 to 3% savings in your energy bill potentially. Also, don't forget Mother Nature. You can always use windows, open your windows, turn on your fans. And speaking of Mother Nature, planting trees and shrubs is a way to cool off your home naturally. So, one tree could equal 10 room air conditioners. Three trees can lower your energy by 30%. So, some things to keep in mind during as we end the summer. But I think August in Hawaii is actually the hottest summer month. Yeah, by when I was looking up information. I think last month it was getting a little hot, so I think every year I do that. I look up which month is going to be the hottest because I don't know when it's going to be over. And the trip to LA was really was neat because it was sunny. The days were longer. The sun was out longer, but it didn't feel as intense as it does here, for one. And two, the nights are a lot cooler. It's like mid 60s, so it felt like nice AC if we leave the windows open. But anyway, I digress. So let's move on to Lane.
Yeah, or people can invest their money and not worry about $300 on utility bills. And that's what drives me crazy. People have $1 million in their house not doing jack because they think that paying off their house is the right thing to do. Or if they got like half of that working, 500,000, put into something making measly 10%, there's 50 grand right there. That's can that send two kids to Marino? I don't know.
I
I think it only
believe so. Not mid
like
pack, but I
yeah,
believe
it would be one and a
possibly
half
Marino.
kids to mid pack. But
Yeah.
people complain that they can't afford things. It's just they don't have the money working harder than they are. But anyway, one place you don't want your money in is some of these crypto staking platforms. One of the biggest ones that kind of fell down was Celsius. If you don't know what this crypto staking thing is, I mean, I'm butchering it, but basically you put it into these platforms and people were getting 8 to 12% by kind of lending their coin. But what they really didn't realize, they didn't ask the question that all investors, good investors ask is, how am I secured, right? How's my investment secured? Like with a piece of real estate, you own title to a piece of real estate. It's a hard asset that if goes away, it's still worth something. Whereas like a business or this stuff, it ain't worth jack when things go bad. So why real estate? Well, the study finds U.S. still needs 4.3 million more apartments by the year 2035. Dean also mentioned this earlier in the show that it's supply and demand. There's more demand for real estate. Population is going up. Pretty good bet. A commercial property executive reports that a lot of folks are kind of rethinking refinancing, just like how residential homeowners are having trouble with the high rising interest rates. This has kind of taken the sale out of activity because of the liquidity in this, or the capital market crunch. Now, I did a pretty in-depth article on this, on the whole play between inflation, interest rates, and employment, how the Fed pulls the strings on these things, and how the current issue on the commercial real estate side is that the lenders are having trouble lending. You can still get loans. It's costing a little bit on the front end. So that's kind of decreasing the transaction volume. but it'll come up here soon. And this is kind of talking about the same thing. There's a point where I plug my book. I'm trying to get over 100 reviews. Help me out. The Journey to Simple Passive Cash Flow, available on iTunes. Or you can check out the free audiobook version at simplepassivecashflow.com/book.
Is that the one? It's your voice too. Is that the one?
Yes, that's where I cozy up in front of the camera and the dog comes around. Sometimes I'm carrying the kid and I read the book aloud. And I
Is
put
it
intertext.
typically the author's voice? Is it typically the author's voice on the Audible?
I think it normally is, but
Oh,
sometimes they'll hire a fraction of times, typically the industry standard.
oh, got it.
All right, multi-housing news reports the housing shortage became a crisis. According to the report, U.S. underproduced $3.8 million of housing between 2012 and 2019. I think this also applies to Hawaii too.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
not a lot of inventory coming online, and that's on the supply side.
Yeah.
Also, talking about high inflation, multifamily investing in a high inflation economy shifted from a manufacturing to a service-based one, and we have a Fed that is very proactive with the arsenal of tools that have been ready deployed to manage economic growth. If you guys are really interested in learning about how the economy actually works with debt, all these quantitative easing, quantitative tightenings, check out simplepassivecashflow.com/Duncan for that quick 1 hour video. I did a 2 podcasts with Richard Duncan, and I bet if you watch that, you're going to be able to impress your friends. Or maybe your
Right.
friends don't care. Maybe your friends don't
Wait,
care. I don't
you
know.
know, you brought up the point about the not having construction, not keeping up with the demand, and so now with hyperinflation, it's even a harder time to want to build. You know what I mean? So it's challenging now because, well, especially in Hawaii too, when we have a lot of red tape and just even arable land to build on. Period. Uh, it's it's not like you can catch up in terms of your lack of keeping up with building new construction. You
Yeah.
can't catch up in a year. I guess is my point. And
Yeah.
and I think mainland it's probably easier to catch up when in Hawaii you're battling uh, land availability, one, and then two, just getting all the permitting. It takes time, a lot of red tape. We're known to Hawaii is known to be very challenging, right? Even like when it comes to businesses, not business friendly. So all these different aspects make it a challenge to solve this housing crisis, if you will. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I run for governor one day,
That'd be cool.
but that just seems like kind of a waste of time for
You
me.
you have too many skeletons in your closet.
Redfin, U.S. residential median asking rents up 14.1%. So rents are skyrocketing, just like how Dean showed earlier. And this is, I mean, it's like if you're a landlord investor, it's a no-brainer. Like you buy real estate and you benefit from the rising tide of inflation. Rent growth is likely slowing, but it's still growing. And I think that gets lost with all the doom and gloom and fear porn out there of the world is going to end, and then the folks trying to sell gold. Yardi Matrix reports multifamily rents rise again in June. Yeah, another thing. Sam Zell warns that the Fed needs to break the inflation mindset. So Sam Zell, smart guy. I would Google him. He's always kind of on the forefront. He's pretty old now, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, but he's pretty wise, and
Yeah.
all his picks are pretty spot on. He doesn't get caught up in all these crypto altcoin kinds of things. Very timeless type of value investments. A little bit different from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is more of a buyer of businesses. Sam Zell is more a buyer of like commodities or real estate. But he says doesn't think that the U.S. is currently in a recession, and that's why they changed the definition. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're on the right, you made fun of Biden because they changed the definition of what a recession is. before our eyes. But I would probably agree that wouldn't call it a recession now. It's just the fact that our economy didn't grow by double digits after a complete shutdown pandemic. And just because it doesn't go up for 10% plus in a quarter doesn't mean we're in a recession. Just means that we had a little bit too much fun. We drank a little bit too much, or and then just woke up a little late, a little sleepy the next day.
Yeah.
So I look at it.
Our workforce is still going strong, right? Unemployment is low, and
Right, unemployment's super low.
Yep.
Demand for housing is super high. Occupancy is super high. I mean, I don't know really what the huge issues are other than inflation, and they just have to get that under control. So you have to just pull the lever of inflation, of interest rates, and you have to do this sensitive analysis or sensitive play on you increase your interest rates so you don't break the economy by increasing unemployment too much. The trouble is there's a lot of liquidity in the markets because they just created a whole bunch of fake money, which created the stock market to go up. And that's what's creating extra slack in the system. So it's not instantaneous. When we increase the interest rates, the inflation comes back down.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that observation.
Yeah, simplepassivecashflow.com/Duncan, and go watch that podcast we did. And we'll leave you at this. I mean, it's not as bad it was once was. And was it 1985? We're going to have the retreat in Waikiki, and it's going to have a little retro theme. It's what I'm planning. Give people an excuse to wear the really bad aloha shirts. So be on the lookout for that, folks.
It sounds fun.
The drinks aren't going to be $1.25. It'll be $18. Welcome to the year 2022. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, topics, you guys want to meet in person, let us know. We'd like to kind of do some live events here in a bit. Anything to leave the folks with, Dean?
No, just when everybody's zigging, that's when you zag, and if everyone's scared, then you should be the one. And I need to practice what I preach too. But like you said, you talk about the doom and gloomers. What did you call it? Gloom porn? Or that was
Beer
kind of
porn.
Beer porn.
I got that from one of the friends we played basketball with.
That's a good term, right? So I mean, if you don't get caught up in the fear porn, I guess, right? And we got to be doing things to better our financial situation.
Yeah, I don't know why people like that. I don't know why it's so attractive. It's probably why I was so interested in that house.
You shocked me when you brought that up. I was like, wow.
Kind of a mystery too.
Oh, but yeah, that's
just like why people look at like an accident on the side of the road, I guess.
Yeah, as much as you don't want to, you just have to, right?
Yeah, you gotta look.
Yeah.
But if that, we'll see you guys next month.
Free real estate investing group. Check out reialoha.com.